The large silver ship hung in the sky over New York City for 3 days before anyone came out. People pointed and took pictures. News crews filmed it day and night. The world waited. Dr. Alan Wright stood at the window of the hastily built Welcome Center. His hands were sweaty. As Earth's top diplomat for this first meeting, everything rested on his shoulders. Next to him stood Kate Bell, his assistant, checking her tablet one last time. "Are you ready?" she asked. Alan nodded but didn't feel ready at all. How could anyone be ready to meet aliens? The ship had appeared without warning. It simply showed up one morning, floating silently above the city. After the initial panic died down, they sent a message. They called themselves the Haughty, members of something they called the Galactic Science Consortium. They wanted to study Earth and its people. "They're coming," said General Lee from across the room. A beam of light shot down from the ship. It hit the landing pad outside. The light faded, and there they stood. 5 aliens, each nearly 7 feet tall. Their bodies were covered in a shell that sparkled blue and green in the sunlight. They had 6 limbs, 2 legs, 4 arms, and large black eyes that didn't blink. "Deep breath," Kate whispered to Alan. The doors slid open. The aliens walked in, moving with a strange grace. Their top arms carried small devices. Their middle arms hung free. The lead alien stepped forward. "I am Exor Thul, chief scientist of the Zachary expedition," it said. The words came from a small box on its chest, not its mouth. "We come to document your civilization." Alan stepped forward. "I am Dr. Alan Wright. On behalf of Earth, welcome." Exor Thul's head tilted. "Your planet has been selected for our ongoing study of primitive developing worlds. We will require access to your technology centers, power facilities, and communication hubs." Alan felt his smile become fixed. Primitive. He glanced at General Lee, whose face had turned red. "We would be happy to show you our achievements," Alan said carefully. "But I want to be clear that we consider ourselves partners in this exchange, not subjects." The alien made a clicking sound. The translator box was silent for a moment, then said, "How charming. Yes, of course." One of the other aliens stepped forward. "I am Kelvax, biology specialist. We have performed initial scans of your world from orbit. Your development level is categorized as pre-space civilization, electrical technology phase. Most species at this stage benefit greatly from our guidance." Kate stiffened beside Alan. He could feel anger building in the room from the human team. "We have visited space," said Dr. Lisa Young, NASA's representative. "We've walked on our moon. We have robots on Mars." "Yes," said Exor Thul. "As I said, pre-space. True space civilization begins with light-speed travel, at minimum." Over the next hour, they worked out the details. The Zachary wanted a worldwide tour of Earth's best technology. They would visit research centers, power plants, and military installations. As the meeting ended, Exor Thul turned to Alan. "We find it beneficial to be honest from the start. Your world registers as level 3 on our scale of 12. Quite respectable for your type of species. We document civilizations like yours before they either advance or destroy themselves. The data is quite valuable." Alan kept his face neutral. "And how will you share this knowledge with us?" Exor Thul's shell changed color slightly. "Share? Oh no. That would interfere with natural development. We observe only." After the aliens left to return to their ship, General Lee slammed his hand on the table. "Did you hear them? They think we're zoo animals." Alan shook his head. "No, worse. We're a research project." He looked out the window at the huge ship. "And I don't think they expect much from us at all." Little did any of them know that Earth was about to surprise everyone, aliens and humans alike. 1 week later, the aliens began their world tour. Their first stop was the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, where Dr. Patricia Morgan waited to show them humanity's greatest physics machine. Patricia had practiced her speech all night, As head of quantum research at MIT, she knew her stuff. But standing before the tall aliens with their shiny shells made her nervous. "This is our particle accelerator," she said, pointing to the huge tunnel. "It's the largest machine humans have ever built. It helps us understand the basic building blocks of the universe." Sorthol moved what looked like a small pen over the equipment. The device made soft beeping sounds. "Interesting," the alien said. "You accelerate particles using magnets and electricity. Very traditional." Kelvax clicked his mandibles. "On our homeworld, children create similar devices for school projects. Though much smaller, of course." Patricia felt her face grow hot. This machine confirmed the existence of the Higgs boson particle. It took thousands of scientists' decades to build. "Yes, we confirmed the particle you call Higgs boson about 8,000 years ago," said Exorthol. "A good first step for your species." The tour continued this way at every stop. In Japan, they visited the quantum computing lab where Sam Ken showed them computers that could solve problems regular machines couldn't touch. "This quantum processor can perform calculations that would take normal computers thousands of years," Sam explained proudly. The alien named Mirix, smallest of the group, laughed. The sound was like glass breaking. "Our communication devices have more processing power. How do you manage with such slow calculation speeds?" At NASA, the aliens barely looked at the rocket designs. At CERN, they spent only minutes examining the antimatter containment systems. Nothing impressed them. By the third week, Alan was tired of their attitude. The Zakari only seemed interested in scanning everything with their devices and making notes. They never shared what they found. "What exactly are you looking for?" Alan finally asked Sorthol as they flew to their next location. The alien shell changed to a deep purple. "Evidence of progress, potential. All developing worlds follow similar patterns. We document these patterns." "And what have you found on Earth?" Ellen pressed. "Your technology is expected. You rely on primitive electrical systems rather than quantum gravitational fields. Your weapons use chemical explosions rather than energy manipulation. Your medical science still focuses on treating illness rather than preventing genetic errors." Ellen felt deflated. "So we're just another primitive world to you." "All species begin somewhere, Dr. Wright. The question is where they go next." That night, in the hotel, Alan met with his team. Lisa from NASA, Patricia from MIT, Sam from the Quantum Lab, and General Lee sat around a table looking defeated. "They think we're stupid," said Sam, playing with his coffee cup. "Nothing we show them matters." "They've seen everything we consider advanced," added Lisa. "And they're bored by all of it." Alan looked out the window. The alien ship was visible even from hundreds of miles away, a silver dot in the night sky. "There's one more stop on their list," he said, "someplace in the Rocky Mountains. They detected something underground that interests them." General Lee frowned. "We don't have any facilities there. At least, none that I know about." "That's what makes it interesting," Alan replied. "They found something we didn't know existed." Patricia leaned forward. "What if it's not ours? What if it's something else?" A silence fell over the room as they considered this idea. If the aliens had found something humans didn't build, what could it be? And why did it show up on their scans when human technology missed it completely? "We leave tomorrow morning," Alan said finally. "I guess we'll find out together." The helicopter flew low over the Rocky Mountains. Snow covered the peaks, and thick forests spread across the slopes. Alan looked out the window, wondering what they would find. Beside him sat Sorthol, his shell now a light blue color. The other aliens followed in a second helicopter with General Lee. "How did you find this place?" Alan asked. "Our ship scanned your planet's crust," Sorthol replied. "We detected unusual materials buried here, materials that do not match your current technology level." Alan frowned. "So it's not something we built?" "Clearly not. The materials show signs of being thousands of years old, yet they have energy patterns that your civilization could not create even now. The pilot's voice came through their headsets. 5 minutes to landing site. They touched down in a small clearing. The mountains rose around them, silent and ancient. The second helicopter landed nearby. Everyone got out and gathered their equipment. "This way," said Kelvax, holding a small device that beeped steadily. "The entrance should be about half a mile east." They hiked through the forest, climbing over fallen trees and pushing through bushes. The aliens moved easily despite their size. After 20 minutes, they reached a cliff face covered in vines and moss. "Here," Kelvax announced, "behind this rock wall." General Lee looked skeptical. "There's nothing here but stone." Cordful stepped forward. He ran his device over the cliff face. "The entrance is hidden. Clever design." He pressed something on his device, and a high-pitched sound filled the air. To everyone's surprise, part of the rock wall began to shimmer. The stone seemed to melt away, revealing a dark opening about 8 feet tall. "How did you do that?" Patricia asked, amazed. "Simple resonance technology," Cordful said. "The door was designed to open when it received the correct frequency." They turned on their lights and entered. The passage sloped downward, smooth and straight. The walls were made of a dark material that didn't look like natural stone. It felt warm to the touch. "This is definitely not a natural cave," Sam whispered. After walking for several minutes, they entered a large chamber. Their lights could not reach the ceiling or the far walls. The floor was smooth and covered in dust, but there were no rocks or debris as you would find in a natural cave. "Spread out," ordered Chlorful. "Scan everything." The aliens moved around the chamber, their devices beeping and flashing. The humans stayed together, shining their lights on the walls. Lisa gasped when her light revealed a series of symbols etched into the wall. "Look at this," she called out. Everyone gathered around. The wall was covered in strange markings. They looked a bit like writing, but nothing anyone recognized. "Can you read this?" Ellen asked Cordful. The alien studied the symbols. "No, this language is unknown to us." Dr. Susan Blackwell, who had joined them as Earth's top archaeologist, ran her fingers lightly over the markings. "These don't match any ancient human writing system I know of." "As I suspected," said Xorthul, his shell turning a satisfied purple. "Your planet once hosted visitors from another world. They built this facility for some purpose, then abandoned it. This happens on many developing worlds." Susan wasn't convinced. But why here? And why would aliens build something then just leave it? "Perhaps they lost interest," Kelvax suggested. "Or perhaps they died out. It doesn't matter. What matters is what they left behind." They continued exploring the chamber. In the center, they found a raised platform with what looked like control panels. Everything was covered in dust, untouched for centuries or longer. "This was some kind of base," said General Lee. "But whose base? And what were they doing here?" "We should continue deeper," Hexorthul decided. "My scans show the complex extends far below us. The most interesting energy readings come from lower levels." As they prepared to move on, Susan noticed something odd about the symbols. Some of them seemed familiar somehow, though she couldn't place why. She took pictures to study later. Whatever this place was, she had a strange feeling they were missing something important. They moved deeper into the underground complex. The passage led downward in a gentle slope. They passed empty rooms with strange objects covered in dust. Hexorthul and his team scanned everything, talking excitedly in their clicking language. "These are ancient power conduits," Hexorthul explained, pointing to long tubes that ran along the walls. "They once carried energy throughout this facility." "And these?" Alan asked, pointing to flat panels set into the walls. "Computational nodes, clearly. Primitive by our standards, but far beyond your current technology." Susan stayed quiet. taking pictures of everything. Something about this place didn't match what the aliens were saying. The doorways were human-sized. The control panels seemed designed for human hands. Why would aliens build a facility with these dimensions? They entered a massive circular chamber. In the center stood a tall column that reached up to the ceiling. Rings of what looked like control stations surrounded it. "This is remarkable," said Kelvax. "A central processing hub of considerable power. The beings who built this had technology at least level 7 on our scale. Much more advanced than humans," added Mirix, the youngest alien scientist. "Even at your fastest development rate, you would need at least 500 more years to create something like this." General Lee looked annoyed. "We get it. You think we're primitive. But I'd like to know who built this and why they put it on our planet." "Perhaps they were studying you," suggested Uxorthol, "just as we are." Susan walked slowly around the room, shining her light on different sections. The symbols appeared here too, more of them. She stopped at one panel and used her sleeve to wipe away dust. "Dr. Wright," she called, "could you come look at this?" Alan joined her. "What did you find?" "These symbols. I've been trying to figure out why they seem familiar." She pointed to a series of markings. "Look at this sequence. Doesn't it remind you of something?" Alan studied the symbols. "They do look a bit like—" "No, that can't be right." "Like what?" Hexor. Thul had joined them, his scanner moving over the panel. "Like numbers," Susan said, "but not our modern numbers. They resemble ancient Earth number systems, like early Sumerian or Proto-Elamite, but more advanced." Thul made a dismissive sound. "A coincidence. Many species developed similar symbolic systems." "Maybe," Susan said, "but there's more." She moved to another panel. "The layout of these controls. They're spaced for 5-fingered hands. Like human hands." "Many species have similar appendages," Kelvax argued. Susan wasn't convinced. She had spent her life studying ancient human civilizations. Something about this place felt human, despite its advanced technology. The aliens continued their scans, becoming more excited as they discovered new sections. "The technology here is remarkable," Thorful declared. "Someone built a complete research base on your planet, right under your primitive ancestors' noses. They must have observed early humans for decades. Or maybe they were early humans," Susan said quietly to Alan. "That's impossible," Alan replied. "We never had technology like this." "As far as we know," Susan countered. "But what if our history isn't complete? What if we forgot something important?" While they talked, Mirix examined the central column. The young alien scientist was more curious than the others, less quick to dismiss things. He noticed a small panel near the base that looked different from the rest. It had a simple depression, almost like a handprint. Without telling the others, Mirix placed his 6-fingered hand on the panel. Nothing happened. He removed his hand and studied the depression more closely. It didn't match his hand shape at all. It looked more like... Mirix looked over at the humans, then back at the panel. His scientific curiosity overcame his prejudice. He called out, "Dr. Blackwell, could you come here for a moment? I need to test a theory." Susan walked over, unaware that she was about to change everything they thought they knew about human history. Susan walked over to where Mirix waited by the central column. The young alien pointed at the panel with the hand-shaped depression. "Would you place your hand here?" he asked. Susan looked uncertain. "Are you sure that's safe?" "I am merely testing the theory," Mirix said. "My hand does not fit the shape." Susan glanced at Alan, who had followed her. He shrugged. "Your call, Susan." She took a deep breath and placed her right hand on the panel. It fit perfectly. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the panel began to glow with a soft blue light. The light spread from Susan's hand up the central column. "Remove your hand." "Exor," Full ordered, suddenly alarmed. But before Susan could move, the entire room lit up. Lines of light raced along the floors and walls like flowing water. The dust in the air seemed to vanish. The central column hummed with energy. "What's happening?" General Lee shouted, his hand moving to his gun. Zorful and the other aliens backed away, their shells changing to a worried yellow color. "This facility is activating," Zorful said, "but it should be impossible. The power sources would have died centuries ago." Susan finally pulled her hand away, but it was too late. The activation had begun. The room continued to brighten. The lights stopped flickering and became steady. The air felt fresher, as if hidden systems had started cleaning it. "Everyone stay calm," Alan said, though his own heart raced. "Let's see what happens." A voice filled the room, speaking in a language no one understood. It sounded almost like words, but not quite right. Susan listened carefully. "That almost sounds like very old English," she said. "Or maybe Proto-Germanic." The voice stopped. There was a pause. Then it spoke again, this time in clear, modern English. Language analysis complete. Modern English selected. "Welcome, inheritors." Everyone stood frozen in shock. The alien shells had turned white with surprise. "It recognized our language," Patricia whispered. "How is that possible? Who built this place?" Ellen called out to the room. "Who are you?" The central column projected a hologram into the air. It showed a human figure, a woman wearing strange clothes that looked both ancient and futuristic at the same time. "I am Caretaker, the facility's main interface. This installation was created by the ancestors for their descendants. You have activated Emergency Protocol 7 due to the presence of non-terrestrial visitors." Zorful stepped forward, his scientific curiosity overcoming his shock. "Impossible. Humans never possessed this level of technology." The hologram turned toward him. "Statement incorrect. The ancestors achieved level 9 civilization status before the Great Collapse. This facility is one of 312 preservation vaults created to ensure humanity's eventual return to the stars." The room fell silent. The humans looked at each other in disbelief. The aliens stood motionless, their shells changing colors rapidly in confusion. "You're saying humans built this?" Alan asked. "Not aliens." "Correct. The ancestors were human. They achieved space travel, colonized 12 star systems, and developed technology beyond what you currently possess. After the war with the Nexus, they were forced to abandon their colonies and return to Earth. The decision was made to start anew rather than continue down the same path." Susan's mind raced. "So they, what? Reset human civilization?" "Simplified is a more accurate term," the caretaker replied. "Most advanced technology was dismantled. Surviving humans were relocated to protected zones. Cultural and technological development was allowed to proceed naturally from a basic agricultural stage." "How long ago was this?" Susan asked. "Approximately 12,000 years ago, by your current calendar." Nerix looked at Zorful, whose shell had turned a deep gray color. "Our scans dated this facility to be thousands of years old," the young alien said. "But we assumed it was built by visitors, not by humans themselves." "You assumed incorrectly," the caretaker stated simply. And with those 3 words, everything changed. The haughty aliens who had looked down on primitive humans now faced a truth they never expected. They had been walking through the remnants of a human civilization far more advanced than their own. For several minutes, no one spoke. The hologram of the caretaker floated above them, waiting patiently. The aliens huddled together, speaking in their clicking language. The humans stared at the hologram, trying to process what they had just learned. "This changes everything," Alan finally said. "Our entire understanding of human history is wrong." Zorful stepped forward. His shell had changed to a deep blue color. "We require proof of these claims. It is highly improbable that humans achieved such advancement and then forgot it." "It was not forgotten," the caretaker responded. "It was deliberately hidden. The ancestors made a choice to begin again with simpler ways." "Why?" Susan asked. Why would they give up advanced technology? The hologram shifted, showing images that floated around the room. They saw planets with huge cities, ships traveling between stars, machines building impossible structures. The ancestors created wonders, the caretaker said, but they also created weapons that could destroy stars. In the war with the Nexus, 3 populated systems were completely destroyed. Billions died. When the war finally ended, the survivors questioned whether humanity was ready for such power. The images changed to show scenes of destruction, planets broken apart, dead worlds. The humans watched in horror. They feared we would destroy ourselves, Patricia whispered. Yes, the caretaker confirmed. The decision to reset was not made lightly. Some disagreed. But in the end, most felt it was better to start fresh, to grow again, but with guidance. Guidance? Ellen asked. These facilities were built to wait and watch, to preserve knowledge but release it slowly when humanity was ready, to ensure the mistakes of the past would not be repeated. General Lee frowned. So these places have been watching us for thousands of years, making decisions about what we should know. Not controlling, preserving, waiting for the right moment. Mirix moved closer to the hologram, fascinated. And our arrival triggered this facility's activation. Correct. The presence of non-terrestrial visitors initiated Emergency Protocol 7. This protocol was designed to protect Earth in case of potential hostile contact. The aliens looked at each other nervously. We are not hostile, Exorthal insisted. We are scientists. Your intentions have been analyzed through your ship's communications and are deemed non-threatening, the caretaker said. However, your classification of humans as primitive requires correction. Susan smiled slightly. She couldn't help enjoying the aliens' discomfort after weeks of their condescending attitude. Are there other facilities like this? She asked. Yes, 312 preservation vaults exist across the planet. All are now activating in sequence. Alan's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and his eyes widened. I'm getting messages from around the world. Strange structures are appearing in Egypt, China, Peru, under the ocean near Japan. The global network is establishing itself, the caretaker explained. This was always the plan. When humanity reached a certain level of development or made contact with other species, the vaults would reveal themselves. Tortfal's shell had turned an almost white color. Our scans showed nothing of this global network. The facilities were shielded. Your scanning technology is insufficient to detect our passage systems. That comment seemed to especially bother the aliens. They had been so proud of their advanced technology, only to learn it wasn't advanced enough to detect what was right under their feet. What happens now? Ellen asked. Now the inheritance protocol begins, the caretaker replied. The knowledge of the ancestors will be shared with their descendants in a controlled manner. The first phase focuses on understanding who you were before revealing what you can become again. The hologram waved a hand, and part of the wall slid open. Inside was a small room filled with objects that looked like clear crystal cubes. These memory crystals contain the complete history of your species, including the lost 12,000 years. It is time for humans to remember their true past. Susan stepped toward the room, drawn by the historian's need to know. As she approached the crystals, they began to glow with inner light, responding to her human presence. For the first time since the aliens arrived, the humans felt a sense of wonder and pride. They hadn't been the primitive species after all. They had just forgotten who they truly were. As Susan reached for the first crystal, Alan's phone rang again. He answered it quickly, his face growing more amazed with each second. The president is calling an emergency meeting, he told the others after hanging up. Structures like this are appearing all over the world. Some are under oceans, others inside mountains. One even appeared under the Great Pyramid in Egypt. The awakening has begun, the caretaker explained. It cannot be stopped now. Sorthol seemed to recover from his shock. His shell returned to its normal color, We must report this to the consortium immediately. This changes the classification of your world." "Yeah, I bet it does," General Lee said with a smile. "Not so primitive now, are we?" Susan carefully picked up one of the crystals. It was lighter than she expected and warm to the touch. As she held it, images began to form in her mind. She saw cities floating in the clouds, people traveling in ships between stars, children playing with technology beyond her understanding. "I can see them," she whispered. "Our ancestors. They were incredible. The memory crystals connect directly with human minds," the caretaker said. "They contain not just information but experiences." Patricia took another crystal. Her eyes widened as the memories flowed into her mind. They had cured all diseases. They had unlimited clean energy. They could build anything they imagined. Alan looked at Torthal. "Your people classified us as level 3. What level were the ancestors?" The alien hesitated. "Based on what we are seeing, they would have been classified as level 9 or possibly level 10, higher than any current species in the consortium." "And what level are the Zakari?" Alan asked. "We are level 6. Torthal admitted reluctantly. The room fell silent as everyone realized what this meant. The primitive humans were the descendants of a civilization far more advanced than the aliens who had looked down on them. The caretaker's hologram expanded to show a map of Earth. Hundreds of points of light appeared across the continents and oceans. "All preservation vaults are now active," it announced. "The global network is online. Phase 1 of knowledge transfer has begun." "What exactly does that mean?" Ellen asked. "Selected individuals around the world are now receiving basic information about their true heritage. Scientists, leaders, teachers. Within days, all humans will understand their true past." Outside the facility, the ground began to shake slightly. The walls hummed with energy. "What's happening now?" General Lee asked, alarmed. "This facility is changing configuration," the caretaker explained. "The hidden sections are now emerging. On the surface, the mountain itself seemed to shift. Rock faces slid apart, revealing gleaming structures of metal and crystal that had been hidden for thousands of years. Similar events were happening at sites worldwide. In the Sahara Desert, sand poured away from a massive disk half a mile across. Under the Pacific Ocean, a tower rose from the seabed, water cascading from its sides. In the underground chamber, screens appeared on the walls, showing news feeds from around the world. People stood watching in awe as the ancient technology revealed itself. Some were afraid, but most seemed filled with wonder. "Your world leaders will need guidance to manage this transition," the caretaker said. "It will not be easy to absorb so much change so quickly." Mirix, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke. "Why now? If these systems were waiting for the right time, why activate because of our arrival?" "The ancestors knew that humanity would eventually encounter other species," the caretaker replied. "They left specific instructions. Their descendants should not meet the galaxy as a young species to be pitied or exploited, but as equals who remember their strength." Susan looked at the crystal in her hand, then at the aliens who had once seemed so superior. "I think they were right to wait," she said. "And I think they were right about the timing, too." The aliens watched as more humans arrived at the facility, scientists and military personnel rushing in to see the wonder for themselves. For the first time since their arrival, the Zakari seemed unsure of themselves. Humanity was remembering who they really were, and the galaxy would never see them the same way again. 3 weeks later, the world had changed. The preservation vaults had shared their knowledge carefully, not all at once. People were learning about their true history through special broadcasts and teaching programs. Schools were closed as new lessons were prepared. Governments worked together in ways they never had before. Alan stood on a hill overlooking the Rocky Mountain facility. What had once been hidden was now a gleaming complex of towers and domes. Ships flew in and out. Not alien ships, but human vessels built using the recovered technology. Beside him stood Susan, now one of the leaders of the history recovery team. "It's amazing how quickly we've adapted," she said. "1 month ago, we were showing the aliens our best technology and feeling embarrassed. Now we're building ships that can reach Mars in hours." "The ancestors designed the knowledge transfer to be easy to understand," Ellen replied. "They were very careful about how they planned all this." Below them, a group of visitors was touring the facility. The Zakari delegation looked very different now. Their shells were pale blue, a sign of respect in their culture. They moved with less confidence, more humility. "Have you heard from the consortium?" Susan asked. Ellen nodded. "Their main fleet arrives tomorrow. Not to study us anymore, but to establish formal relations." As equals, a young woman approached them, one of the new scientists working at the facility. "Dr. Wright, Dr. Blackwell, the caretaker wants to speak with you, something about the next phase." They followed her into the main building. The halls were filled with people studying, learning, building. In the central chamber, the hologram waited for them. It had changed slightly, showing more detail, looking more human. "Alan Wright, Susan Blackwell, the initial knowledge transfer has been successful. It is time to discuss the future." "What happens next?" Alan asked. "Phase 2 begins tomorrow. The defensive systems will be activated." Susan frowned. "Defensive systems? Are we in danger?" "The galaxy contains many species. Not all are like the Zakari, interested only in knowledge. Some would take what they want by force. The ancestors left Earth protected." The hologram waved its hand, and a new image appeared. It showed Earth surrounded by thousands of small points of light. "These are defensive platforms in orbit around Earth. They have remained hidden, powered down. Tomorrow they will activate." "What exactly can they do?" Alan asked. "They can protect Earth from any current known weapon in the galaxy. They are part of why the ancestors felt safe leaving their descendants to develop naturally." A man entered the room, General Lee, now working with the New Earth Defense Force. "We've detected a large fleet approaching the solar system," he reported. "Bigger than the consortium said they were sending." The caretaker's hologram seemed to smile. "The Draven Empire. They detected the energy surge from our awakening. They always were opportunists." "Are they dangerous?" Susan asked, worried. "They would have been before the awakening. Now they will serve as a demonstration." Outside, people began pointing at the sky. Tiny points of light appeared, thousands of them, moving into formation. The orbital platforms were revealing themselves. On screens throughout the facility, a large fleet of alien ships appeared, approaching Mars. "Should we contact them?" General Lee asked. "Try to talk." "They would not listen," the caretaker said. "But do not worry. The ancestors left clear instructions on how to deal with threats. Watch." The platforms around Earth glowed with energy. A wave of light spread out from the planet, moving faster than any human technology had ever achieved. When it reached the approaching fleet, the ships simply stopped. All of them frozen in space. "What did we do to them?" Ellen asked, amazed. "A temporal field. They are frozen in a moment of time. It will last long enough for you to send a message when they are released." "What message?" Susan asked. The caretaker's hologram looked at each of them in turn. "The same message the ancestors left for all who might threaten Earth. We are humanity. We have walked the stars before, and we will do so again. We come in peace, but we come with strength. Remember this." As the sun set over the new Earth, humanity looked to the stars not as visitors, but as returners. They had been among the stars before. And now they were going back, wiser from their long sleep, stronger for their humble beginnings, and united by the knowledge of who they truly were. The end.